In plenty and in time of need, when this fair land was young, our brave forefathers sowed the seed from which our pride is sprung. A pride that makes no wanton boast of what it has withstood, that binds our hearts from coast to coast, the pride of nationhood. We loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own. We write our names on history's page with expectations great, strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our fate. The Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. With him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. Upward and onward we shall go, inspired, exulting, free. And greater will our nation grow in strength and unity. We loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own. We write our names on history's page with expectations great, strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith.
Thank you to O'Shea Stout, a second former here at Harrison College. You may be seated. Brand manager and title sponsor of PowerAid and Dasani, Mr. Clifford Gooden-Edgell. Co-chairs of the BSAC committee, Ms. Juanita Wade, principal of Harrison College, and Mr. Andrew Brathwaite, teacher at Queen's College. President of the Barbados Association of Principals of Public Secondary Schools, Mr. Stephen Jackman. Former principal, Mr. Vasco Dash. Other members of the BSAC committee, coaches, teachers, students, parents, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Okay, now I know you're listening. I am your Master of Ceremonies, Sandra Goodrich, principal of the Coleridge and Parry School and member of the BSAC Organizing Committee. And it's my pleasure this morning to welcome all of you to the launch of the BSAC, or better yet, known as BSAC, but it's the Barbados Secondary Schools Athletic Championships 2022. Today is a day we've been looking forward to, having planned for nearly a year, and those plans kept changing and changing. But we are indeed grateful to have reached this stage where BSAC can become a reality. Our athletes need this. Our school communities need this. Our country as a whole needs this because it signifies a return to normalcy somewhat. Our task today is to launch officially the 2022 BSAC season, as well as to present the prizes for those who participated in our first virtual activity. So without further ado, I invite you all to stand again as we ask Mr. Vasco Dash, former principal and chairman of BSAC and one of the honorary members of our organizing committee, to ask God's blessings on our proceedings. Mr. Dash.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for your blessings to us, even though we are unworthy of those blessings. We thank you for all that you continue and you will continue to do for us. We ask that you would bless this morning's proceedings. Help that everything will be done with decency and with order, as you would wish. We want to pray for the organizing committee of BSAC. Give them wisdom, give them understanding, help that they may perform their tasks with humility and to the best of their abilities. We want to pray for the athletes who will take part in the competition. We ask that you will be with them in their training and as they get ready for this meet. We also want to pray for our sponsors. They have been hit pretty hard through the COVID pandemic, but they have stuck with us. And we ask that you would help that their businesses will recover quickly and that they will continue to stick with us. We want to pray for the wider school community, the difficulties that schools have, staff, students. Keep everyone safe from this coronavirus. Continue to be with us, continue to bless us. We want to pray also for the media who will report faithfully on the activities of this championship. Continue to give them health, strength, and the ability to do what ought to be done. Continue to be with us, keep us, and help that at the end of this assignment, your name would be honored and glorified through our activities. These mercies we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Dash. You may be seated, everyone. At this time, it's also my pleasure to call on Ms. Juanita Wade. She's the principal of Harrison College, but also the co-chair of the BSAC committee. And Ms. Wade will come now and welcome you.
Mr. Clifford Gooden-Edgell, brand manager of our title sponsor, PowerAid and Dasani. Mr. Stephen Jackman, president of the Barbados Association of Principals of Public Secondary Schools. Ms. Sonja Goodrich, our master of ceremonies this morning. Co-chair, Mr. Andrew Brathwaite, and other members of the organizing committee of the Barbados Secondary Schools Athletics Championships, BSAC. I want to especially mention here our zone coaches, Mr. Gabriel Burnett, Mr. Siebert Strawn, and Mr. Jesse King. Managers of the zones, we have one of those here with us this morning, and that is Mr. Vasco Dash. Other physical education teachers, Ms. Janelle Denny, Chair of the National Association of Primary School Athletics Championships, NAPSAC, athletes, other students, parents, and of course, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a wonderful feeling standing here this morning, knowing that we are gathered for the first time in 2 years in anticipation of seeing our young people once more on the track and in the field, as we bring you the PowerAid Barbados Secondary Schools Athletic Championships for 2022. On behalf of the organizing committee of BSAC, I'm happy to welcome you to this launch as we usher in this very different edition of the PowerAid BSAC Championships. And of course, I can't help but take this opportunity to remind you that you are in the home of the current BSAC Boys Champions, Harrison College. Over the last 2 years, the organizing committee has been hard at work, adapting, anticipating, innovating, in the expectation that we would reach this point where we could see our athletes competing again. We have been heartened by the response of our sponsors, and it is therefore a pleasure to welcome our title sponsor, PowerAid and Desani, represented as usual by Mr. Clifford Goodin-Edgell, brand manager. The relationship between BSAC and PowerAid goes back many years to the time when we knew the games as just inter-school sports. We are happy, therefore, that PowerAid and Desani have been there with us in the good times and in the lean times. While zone competitions are nothing new for us, this year we will see BSAC executed in 3 zones. We have taken the opportunity to name the zones after former physical education teachers who have given great service to our schools and to the nation's children. They have therefore done their part for nation building. It gives me a distinct pleasure to be able to recognize them as we go on. You will hear more about this from Mr. Brathwaite, Mr. Andrew Brathwaite, our co-chair. I want to welcome and to thank the members of the organizing committee who continue to work long hours to ensure that the games are executed to the highest standards and in the safest way, given the reality that we are indeed still in a pandemic. Of course, a sincere welcome is extended to the principals who are here with us, particularly because this year they are even more engaged as managers of the zones. We also welcome coaches who have agreed to work together, not just for the schools at which they teach, but with all the athletes in their zones. This is an unprecedented occurrence in unprecedented times. Yet all of this preparation would be futile if the athletes had not come out. So I welcome them as they are the real stars of this event. And finally, I want to acknowledge the winners of the first ever virtual run organized by BSAC. Some of those winners are with us today and will be receiving their prizes, again sponsored by PowerAid and Desani. The pandemic forced us to think outside the box, and we believe that we're on to a good thing. It brought out our students, teachers, principals, families, and individuals near and abroad to represent their schools. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking forward to an exciting 2 days of competition. BSAC is back in a big way. We welcome you to be a part of that excitement. Thank you.
So you just heard from Ms. Wade about our virtual activity. And that was quite a run or walk. For those of us who participated and are not as fit as these athletes, we had goals too. My aim was to reach 1 kilometer. And when I realized the time was going, I had like a minute left. And I was about 0.8. I started to run. I have not run in a long, long time. But the intention was there. Now, there's some of them, of the others, who would have done much more than what I would have done because they're fit. So it's my pleasure this morning to invite Cato Morgan-Ford, representative of PowerAid and Dasani, to come now and to make these presentations. Let's welcome him as he comes. Now, we're not going to call everybody to come up, but we do want to acknowledge the winners today, and those winners, whoever came first, you're asked to come forward. I also need to point out that the school prize will be presented a little later. That's a check. So you will get that school prize a little later. So now to our winners. We have with us First Form Girls Champion, receiving 1 case of PowerAid and 1 case of Dasani water, Adriana Shalwick of the St. Winifred's School. Let's welcome her as she comes. Second was Isabella Mears from the Lestervon School and Cara Small of the Lodge School. And I need to point out that Adriana doubled my time. I guess it's because she's half my age. So she made 2 kilometers in 10 minutes. Congratulations, Adriana. You're welcome. And now to our First Form Boys Champion, also receiving a case of PowerAid and a case of Dasani water. Thank you, Adriana. And now to our First Form Boys Champion, also receiving a case of PowerAid and a case of Dasani water, Micah James of Harrison College. And his time was 2.4, well, his distance, 2.4 kilometers. Second to him, Amari Wickham of the St. Michael's School and Xavier Mon of the Dighton Griffith Secondary School. Congratulations, Micah. And we should continue to applaud them because they didn't have to go out to do this. The under 15 girls champion receiving the case of PowerAid and a case of Dasani, Aviel Small of the Christchurch Foundation School. And her prize will be received this morning by her coach. Second, Shania Hill of the Alexandra School and Savannah Paris, tied with Althea Marie Wilson of the Lodge School and Christchurch Foundation School, respectively. And now to the under 15 boys champion. I should have said that Aviel, the under 15 girls champion, did 2.08 kilometers. The under 15 boys champion, Shaquan Bell of the Lodge School, he did 2.3 kilometers. Let's welcome Shaquan as he comes. And second to him, Jasper Hutchinson of the St. Michael's School and Emile Reed of Harrison College. Thank you for coming, Shaquan. Now to the under 20 girls champion, and I should keep repeating because our sponsors have been really blessing us, so I'll repeat each time that each person receives 1 case of PowerAid and 1 case of Dasani water, while the school in each category receives $200. In the under 20 girls champion, in the under 20 girls division, Ashlyn Simmons of the Alexandra School, and hers will be she will be represented to here by her physical education teacher. Second to Ashlyn, who would have done 2.3 kilometers, is Amelia Valdez of Harrison College and Jade Williams of the St. Michael's School. and the under 20 boys champion. And this is the furthest anybody reached. Let's acknowledge Finn Armstrong of Harrison College. 2.96 kilometers, the farthest distance in 10 minutes. And second to him was Ethan Brathwaite, GS, Graydon Sealy. And he is from Graydon Sealy, and John Raven of the Christchurch Foundation School with 2.88 kilometers. Thank you, Finn, and we look forward to all of you representing at BSAC. To the adult female receives the same thing, and in this case, both of the females, because they tied, instead of getting $200, they will split the prize and get $100. And each. So the adult female, it was a tie. Donna Gibbs of the St. Winifred School, and she tied with our former hurdler champion, still performing very well, Kerry Beckles, representing the Princess Margaret Secondary School today. But it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge Kerry as one of my former students at the Lester Vaughan School. We're very proud of both of them. They would have gotten a distance of 2.08 kilometers. Let's congratulate them both. And the adult male with a time of a distance of 2.70 kilometers is Raheem Skinner, former national athlete and athlete of the Coleridge and Parry School. And therefore, I'm very proud today, now that I represent this school, to acknowledge Raheem and his 2.70 distance. Thank you, Raheem. Second was Kirk Payne of the Christchurch Foundation School. And we had a four-way tie for third. Let's acknowledge all of them. Marv Gamble of the St. Michael's School, Lennox Ellis of the Parkinson School, Reese Bourne of St. George Secondary School, and Shervin Lewis of the Christchurch Foundation School. Yes. And we really deserve to congratulate all of them. And now to those overall champions. I need to say to you that, is this Ashlyn? Okay, so Ashlyn, you could just do the presentation again, because we always want to see the students. So we'll ask you, and I trust that you'll allow me the opportunity to acknowledge the under 20 girls champion who has just arrived. She receives a case of Powerade and a case of Dasani water, as well as the school prize for her school. Ashlyn Simmons with a distance of 2.3 kilometers, representing the Alexandra School. Thank you, Ashlyn, for making the effort. And we've been hearing some good things about you, and we look forward to you continuing to perform very well. So 582 persons participated. That's not really true. 582 persons uploaded their information, because a lot, more than 1,000 registered. And we do know that several people said that they had some issues uploading, and some didn't even bother to upload. But 582 persons would have uploaded their information, 349 females and 233 males, covering a total distance of 692.33 kilometers. Let's applaud everyone's efforts. Now we have some other prizes, a case of Powerade. These persons are not here today, but we want to acknowledge them. The best submitted photos from the females came from Victory Bourne of Dighton Griffith and Sierra Taylor of the Springer Memorial Secondary School. And that was the top. And then the best submitted photos from the males came from Kadeem Beckles of Alexandra of the Alexandra School and Caden Alexander of Harrison College. Now to the greatest distance covered by a school. The school that covered the greatest distance is, let's just say that they covered 200 kilometers themselves. Yes, I'm not sure if, oh yes, the principal did do something. I saw her video. The school prize is $500, and that school is none other than where we are now, Harrison College. Let's congratulate them. I'm not sure, Madam Wade, if you will be receiving or if our Mr. Leacock will come, but you need to come forward and be acknowledged for motivating persons to cover 200 kilometers. Congratulations, and you will be getting your $500 soon. Soon. All right, so the school that had the largest numbers of persons representing the school, 96 females and 65 males, a total of 161 participants. No wonder they covered 200 kilometers. Harrison College, again. And for that, they get $400. So with all of those individual prizes plus this, Harrison College has carried away everything. Next year, I'm going to have the launch at CP because it seems like wherever you have the launch, the people win. Yes? All right. So congratulations to all of you. I really want to thank all of you who participated. It has been an experience to remember. It definitely was an experience to remember. And I want to wish all of you God's blessings as you continue to represent us. And we want to acknowledge and thank as well Mr. Ford. So thank you, sir, for your presentations. Let's applaud him as well. At this time, we go back to a few speeches. We now have, oh, I should have said, and I wanted to do this. The virtual run was a fantastic experience, but it would not have been a fantastic experience without the persons who organized it. And at this time, I'm not supposed to do this, but I really want to acknowledge the efforts of Mr. Dorian Best, who's over here. Mr. Best, if you can stand, that they can see you. He was the brainchild, certainly the technical man behind it all. And for those of us who had problems uploading, he was very patient. And believe me, I had several. All right. So I know that there were several others like me. I want to thank him and the entire team for ensuring that the event was a success. Now, to brief remarks from our president. As you are aware, BSAC falls under the umbrella of the Barbados Association of Principals of Public Secondary Schools. And our president, this is his first time in this capacity. He usually works security, but this is the first time since he's been president that he will come to address us at this function. The principal of Frederick Smith Secondary and our president, Mr. Stephen Jackman. Let's welcome him as he comes.
Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Sandra Goodrich, Mr. Clifford Goodin Edgell, brand manager of the title sponsor, co-chairs, Ms. Juanita Wade, and my former student, Mr. Andrew Brathwaite, just aging myself here. Zone managers, Mr. Vasco Dash, zone coaches, Messrs. Burnett, King, and Strawn, members of the organizing committee, Ms. Janelle Denny, chairperson of NAPSAC, members of the media, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased and honored to be here this morning as we launch the 2022 edition of BSAC. I must first commend the hard work of the organizing committee who have adapted to the conditions and developed a working plan for this event in these trying times. I must also applaud the commitment of the sponsors who have held our hands through 2020, where there was an aborted championship, and through 2021, where there was no championship at all. Staying the course has borne fruit, and in 2022, we are able to hold a meet that will allow our athletes to showcase their talent on a slightly reduced stage. I state emphatically that the participation of our young champions is the paramount reason for these championships, and that why we have worked so hard with all the actors to ensure that BSAC 2022 could be a reality. The nation as a collective is seeking to recover from the effects of a global pandemic and return to normalcy. This is the position that the Barbados Association of Principals of Public Secondary Schools supports. We believe that our students returning to active participation in sporting activities is a tiny step towards normalcy. In addition, it is a stimulus for both their physical and mental health and the collective psychological well-being of our nation. As has been the case with everything else, it is not expected that these championships will have the same look as it did before. We are, however, convinced that competition will be as keen as it has ever been, as our young sportsmen and women will represent themselves and their schools with distinction. We are confident that this format will provide spectators with the usual spirit of rivalry as they remember their school days while placing our best school athletes on the national stage. We are particularly happy to have our students engage in sporting activity, and we are happy to provide continued support to the planning committee. True courage is not the absence of fear, but triumph over it. The last 2 years have been typified by a fear of the dislocation that COVID-19 caused. This championship is part of the symbolic triumph over those fears. As we return to competition, we will do everything possible to keep our athletes, officials, and stakeholders safe. This is, however, the first step in recovery of a life as we knew it, and we will continue to support the organizing committee and our students along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
At this time, it gives us great pleasure to welcome Mr. Clifford Gooden-Edgell, who we've been calling the brand manager for a while, but Clifford had a promotion. That's what happens when you give. So he's now the marketing manager of Powerade and Dasani Waters, and we really want to acknowledge him and thank him for his sponsorship. As you would have heard from the others over the years, from as far back as the days of Coke and Sprite and all those different names we had, the company has been with us, and Clifford has been with us for a long time. Therefore, I want you to welcome him this morning, because without his sponsorship, this event cannot take place. So, Mr. Gooden-Edgell, please join us.
Thank you. Good morning, all. With protocols already established, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming to the launch of the Powerade Dasani BSAC event for 2022. We at the Barbados Bottling Company are pleased to continue our partnership and association with the BSAC Organizing Committee. This is a relationship that has spanned nearly 4 decades. It's been a long relationship, and one that we as a company have seen the benefits in terms of our young athletes having an opportunity and a platform to showcase their talents. And many of these young athletes would have also gone on to represent Barbados at various levels. Some of them would have gone on also to achieve sporting scholarships. So again, we see it as a really unique and very positive event, and therefore our commitment has never waned. Today, we continue this partnership But as we continue the partnership, we're happy to introduce a new brand to the relationship. We're happy to introduce our Dasani Water brand to be part of the title sponsorship for this event. We also want to take this opportunity to applaud the organizing committee and for finding the creative and innovative ways in which to make this event happen. We too at the Barbados Bottling Company have also been doing a bit of innovation. And this year, all of the athletes will be powered by a new advanced electrolyte system with our new Powerade Ion 4 formula. So we're happy to introduce to the market, and also, like I said, the athletes will see a much improved product as well. It's now we've added additional electrolytes, we've added continue to maintain the B vitamins, and therefore we believe that we've now offered an even much better product in terms of rehydration. Again, I want to take this opportunity to wish all the athletes who will be participating at the event all the best. It is important that we all adhere to the various protocols to make sure that all the event comes off without any hiccups. But again, we are happy that we were able to work with the organizing committee to stage this event, and therefore we're looking forward to another successful BSAC Championships. Once again, thank you and all the best.
Now, for any event to be a success, you have to have someone who is powering the team. And we can truly say that our next speaker has powered this team. Yes, he uses Dasani water and Powerade, and he ensures that we are kept moving. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Andrew Brathwaite, a teacher of Queen's College and the co-chair of the BSAC committee. He's always thinking BSAC. You can get a message at any hour of the morning. The chat can be constantly going, reminding us of what we have to do. And he has worked hard. And it really is a blessing to have him as our leader. We want to thank him for all he has done. And at this time, I introduce him to you to bring the remarks, and he will follow up by leading the question and answer segment. So all of the things you want to find out, he's the man to ask. All right, so let's welcome Mr. Andrew Brathwaite, our co-chair.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Protocol having already been established, I want to start by saying that I realized something while I was sitting there listening to the other persons deliver their speeches. I realized that for future events, I will speak first, because it means that I will get to say everything that I had planned to say and not listen to the other person say all of the stuff that I intended to say and then make me have to adjust my speech. However, you will have to bear with me at this point in time, because I will say everything and you may be hearing things that have been said before. As I prepared for this launch today, I took some time to reflect as to why I and so many others do this job. And what I came up with is that there's a legacy that we seek to maintain. And that legacy has been set by athletes, coaches, teachers, administrators, volunteers over the years. And that legacy has been to make the Barbados Secondary School Athletic Championship the premier local track and field meet in Barbados, as well as one of the best junior meets across the region. I think that over the years, we have been able to achieve that, and we will continue to strive to do that as we move forward. But this legacy, for me, is really centered around the work of persons who have left this earth as well. And I want this morning to just highlight a couple persons who have made contributions or have participated where BSAC is concerned, track and field in general. I will highlight an official, a coach, and an athlete. The official is Mr. Vincent Burke. Those of you who have participated at the stadium, at the Usain Bolt complex, will know Mr. Burke as one of the members of the starters crew, a perfect gentleman. And he has served BSAC and track and field, knapsack as well, for a number of years. And I just want this morning to acknowledge him and the contribution that he has made, certainly to the success of track and field and the development of our young persons over the years. I wish to also mention Mr. Mike Gaskin, a controversial coach in his own right, but a coach nonetheless who works tirelessly to develop track and field. He has coached Olympians. He worked to put Queen's College certainly on the map where sports is concerned in Barbados. And he was fairly successful as well with that job. And last but by no means least, I want to acknowledge Mr. Jamarian Mapp, an outstanding athlete and past student of the Elliott Belgrave Primary, as well as the Alexandra School. We have truly been robbed of the opportunity to see this young man perform at the BSAC level. However, we acknowledge all that he did with regards to track and field, and I can make the promise here that we will honor these persons at the opening ceremony with the observation of a moment's silence with a special firing of the pistol. We will make every attempt to honor these persons as well as those other persons who have passed over the last couple of years. Some through COVID, some for other reasons, but we do think that there needs to be an acknowledgement of those persons who have passed on, who have made significant contribution to sports across Barbados. The fact that we're here today, however, is, I'm sure, a joy for all of us. We can say with a degree of certainty today that BSAC 2022 is indeed on the cards. Getting to this day has truly been a journey that has forced different approaches and the formation of strategic partnerships to ensure that this event will happen at a level for which we can all be proud. One of those partnerships that I wish to highlight is that with PowerAid, our title sponsor. You've heard mention of PowerAid and the length of time that they have been with us. This partnership truly has spanned decades and continues to be of tremendous value to the track and field family. There is a strong sense of loyalty that exists between us and PowerAid, as well as, let me not leave them out, all of the other sponsors who contribute to the Barbados Secondary Schools Athletic Championship. We will hold a special event to introduce those other sponsors to you pretty soon. Today really is about the launch and the relationship with PowerAid. There are two other partnerships that I wish to mention today as well, because in our planning for the BSAC Championship this year, I refer to it as the rebirth. We have had to meet and partner with the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training has made significant contributions to us this year. Actually, we have the staff in the Media Resource Department here with us today, and this department, for me, is one of the best kept secrets in our Ministry of Education. They do excellent work. And the streaming for this event today is under the control of the Media Resource Department, and we thank them for being here. But we also thank the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, the Chief Education Officer, her deputies, as well as the entire staff of the Ministry of Education for taking us on board and partnering with us as we have planned to execute this competition this year. I also wish to acknowledge the partnership that has been entered into with knapsack. This partnership has seen us collaborate on technical issues, share resources, share ideas, sort out logistical matters, And I just want to recognize Ms. Janelle Denny, the chairperson of the NAPSAC Organizing Committee, whose presence here today, first time that we've had the NAPSAC chair as part of the BSAC launch. And not to be left out, I also attended the NAPSAC launch to give support, as well as the draw for the zones. And, you know, that proved to be an exciting event for me as well, since I was never involved. So I thank you, Janelle, for having me there as well. And I look forward to a continued strong relationship as we both work to improve track and field at the junior and youth level. Most of you by now know that we plan to have BSAC, and most of you by now know the dates for BSAC, the 24th and the 25th. You are not accustomed to BSAC over 2 days, so I will have to explain a little bit more with regards how the competition is going to go. But I say to you that under the present conditions, we've had to condense the meet. We've had to look at reducing the number of athletes, hence why we're at the place where we are having this zone competition, which will be explained to you as we go along. So the dates, March 24th and 25th, at the Usain Bolt complex, we will see competition between 3 zones. The zones are as follows. Put that there up. You have them up, Doreen? The Jeffrey Burke zone. I realize that. The Jeffrey Burke zone, the Jennifer and Anthony Jones zone, as well as the Peter Vaughan zone. For some reason, even though I've communicated with Peter countless times, his name does not come when I want it to come. These individuals, after whom these zones have been named, are all former physical education teachers. Their body of work is nothing less than outstanding. These individuals will be formally introduced at our opening ceremony on the 24th. However, as we now know the names of the persons in the zones, it is for me of the management structure of the zones. I won't spend too much time on that because we know that Ms. Wade has already covered that in her opening remarks. However, the Jeffrey Burke zone will have as its manager Mr. Anthony Allen, principal of the Lester Vaughan School, and the head coach is Mr. Jesse King, who is here with us and be acknowledged. The Joneses zone will have as the manager Miss Vanell Woods, deputy principal at the St. Michael's School at this time, and the head coach will be Mr. Gabriel Barnett, physical education. Calling it off my head, Gabriel. Right, don't hear it. I just pretending to look at this thing. And the Peter Vaughan zone will have as the manager Mr. Vasco Dash, former principal of the Lodge School, and the head coach for that zone will be Mr. Siebert Strawn, physical education teacher at the Christchurch Foundation School. We've selected head coaches, we have put managers in place, and what we have started to see is a working relationship between coaches that we haven't seen before, where they're together, they're sharing ideas, they're planning for the execution of the meet. And we are very pleased to see this kind of concept starting to happen. And these things happen among our physical education teachers. This rebirth, I'm sure, is presenting us with something that we have not seen before. Now that we know the management structure, management team for the zones, and please excuse me if I move over a little bit, because I need to see what is on the screen as well behind me. These zones are made up as follows. The Jeffrey Burke zone will see Harrison College, the Lester Vaughan School, the St. George Secondary School, St. Leonard's Boys School, and the Ursuline Convent School. Thank you, sir. The Joneses Zone, Jennifer and Anthony Jones. And Parry School, the Combermere Frederick Smith Secondary School, Graydon Seeley Secondary School, Queen's College, St. Winifred's School, the St. Michael's School, and Young Explorers Barbados School. This is a new school that reached out to us in the last few weeks, and we have included this school into this zone as well. For the Peter Vaughan zone, we have the Alexandra School, the Aline School, the Christchurch Foundation School, Codrington High School, the Darrell Jordan Secondary School, the Dighton Griffith Secondary School, Grantley Adams Memorial School, and last but by no means least, the Lodge School. This competition will work in the following way. The zones will select a representative team, and it is that team that will participate at the Barbados Secondary School Athletic Championships for this year. This is a one-off event. We do expect to go back to the regular competition once conditions allow. But for this year, this allows us to reduce the numbers in the small arena. It allows us to reduce the number of officials. It allows us to control the protocols with regards to COVID a little bit better. And we, as an organizing committee, have felt that this is the way to go for this year. However, we know that the public likes to see and identify with the school. And as such, what will happen, even though we are operating with zones, is that we will allow the athletes to wear their school kit. So if you're a supporter for Harrison College, then you will still have the opportunity to see a Harrison College athlete in the school kit. Courage Parry, you will see the Courage Parry athlete in the school kit, even though they're representing the particular zone. So we're not naming a school as champion, we're naming a zone as champion this year. But certainly all of the other prizes that we are accustomed to, Victor Victrix, divisional champions, these things will all be awarded as well. And the competition will happen in the traditional age groups, under 13, under 15, under 17. However, there's no under 20 this year. We are calling that age group an open group. We recognize as well that there are students who may be in school now who fall out of the age range for qualification for the under 20 event. And as such, we still want to give those students the opportunity to compete. So we've called it an open event, not so that anyone off the street can come and enter, but once you're in school, even though you may be a little older than the age range, we want to give you the opportunity to compete. Certainly over the last 2 years, that opportunity was not there, and we don't want to rob a student who's still in school of the opportunity to compete at this time. So for this year, this event is an open event, but open to persons who are in school. So nobody out there who maybe took part in the virtual run, don't think that you can come and register to compete in the open event at this year's BSAC. The events are covered, and I just wish to say to you that all COVID protocols will be in effect. I can't say to you exactly what those protocols will be at this point in time, but I will say to you again, all COVID protocols will be in effect. However, we are still seeking to dot our I's and cross our T's before we make the protocols public or before we say how we will treat to spectators. So I'm just saying to the press, don't ask me about spectators at this time because we're still working out how we will manage spectators at the meet. There's definitely, however, excitement around the rebirth of BSAC this year. And we know that with this format, we are positioned to execute a quality event. We've done the hard work. We've done the work behind the scenes. We have invited our sponsors on board. Sponsors are still calling, asking to come on board, so that's a good thing for us as well. And we expect with this format never before seen in Barbados, where schools have combined to compete. We expect that this new format is among the public, and we will do our best to ensure that a quality show is presented on the 24th and 25th of March this year. I thank you for listening. Hopefully I didn't repeat too much. And I now open the floor for questions if there are any questions, but being a teacher, I think I may have done such a good job of explaining stuff that there shouldn't be any major questions coming. However, if there are any questions, I open the floor now for questions. They say count to 10, and if nobody raises the hand, just close it off. Yes, ma'am. Anne-Marie. We have a special formula for working through the selection of the zones. We look at the performance of the schools over a period of time. We rank the schools, and then we use what we call a serpent method to run through the schools as we have ranked them, and they're just placed next to each other in the zones. Sometimes because of the performance, you may, because you're accustomed to maybe certain schools standing out, you may see that there are particular schools that end up together, but I assure you that it was done in a fair manner with regards to the selection of these zones. Anything else? Yes, sir, Mr. Bino. We don't pay attention to where students end up. So no, it didn't take into consideration the shift. So if students move as fifth form going into sixth form, then we would not have taken that into consideration. So no. Any other questions? Yes, Amir. That is a decision that is left to the AAB. We haven't discussed whether the AAB wishes to use the meet as a qualifier. It is entirely up to them. If they choose to, then we have no issue. The conditions will be conditions that would allow for qualification, but we leave that up to the AAB. BSAC cannot decide that it's a qualifier for CARIFTA. Yes, ma'am. We have left the selection of athletes entirely up to the zones. We have advised that we want to see full participation from the schools in the zones. For events, the flat events on the track, for example, there are 6 entries per zone, as opposed to the 2 that you would have traditionally seen per school. So the zones have employed their own selection process. 1 or 2 of the zones have had some small meets so that they could get to see the athletes, see how they're performing. We know that there are some athletes who are competing at the AAB meets on weekends. So, and we have made available as well to the zones the results from NAPSAP, the last NAPSAP, because these students, some of these students would have moved into secondary school as well. So those results are also available for the coaches to review. And the emphasis is on participation, though, as much as possible. We want all schools participating. However, it's a competition and you want to win. So the schools, the coaches will employ their own methods for selection. We don't want to insist as an organizing committee that this happens or that happens, but we expect to see a diverse group of athletes representing the zone. Yes, sir. Mr. Bino. What we have said to our sponsors this year is that we want to raise the prize money for the winners in this competition. And our sponsors have, to some degree, committed to adding on a little bit here, a little bit there, to assist us with a pool that will be used for the prize money at the end of the championship. So we are expecting to be able to give a minimum of $10,000 to the winning zone. What we want to see happen then is for that money to filter down through the schools that are in the zone. We want to give something substantial, but that will also depend on how much more money comes in. But certainly, we have taken that into consideration, Kenmore, and we are looking at substantial prize money, way more than we would have given for the individual schools winning the competition, so that it can be shared around. Another thing that we are looking to explore, since that has come up, along the way, we are also looking to explore how the BSAC organizers can contribute to the development of schools as well. And when I say that, I'm looking at with producing or providing certain types of equipment for schools. We're looking at BSAC being able to source equipment, field event equipment, for example, issuing that equipment to schools as well, not as a prize, but issuing to schools. And then when we need it for competition, we can use it for competition. But it wouldn't make sense buying 2 shot puts and putting them in a room to sit down for a whole year when there are schools that would be able to use these things. So we are looking at that as well as a way to assist the physical education programs in some schools so that we're able to see the development, the type of development that we want to see along the way as well. Andrew? Say that again, please. The feedback has been mixed, mostly positive, but certainly mixed. There are some coaches who have objected to the format. We have used our powers of persuasion to convince them that this is what is best for us at this point in time. But largely, we have seen a buy-in from the coaches. And I've sat in some of the planning meetings for one of the zones, and I can say to you that there's a level of excitement, and the manner in which I've seen the coaches communicating in that particular zone, the plans that they're putting in place, I have truly been impressed with the work that the physical education teachers have been doing, how they've come together. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for learning. Younger coaches learning from experienced or senior coaches, as well as senior coaches learning a little something from the younger coaches. So this is a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. But yes, there has been limited opposition, and we have listened to that opposition. However, we are moving forward with the structure that we've put in place for this year. Yes, please. That is something that I will not make public. I say to you that the cost is still substantial because though we are not having a stretched out meet like before, we have to address protocols and safety, and that is a substantial cost that we must meet because we want to be sure that the athletes feel comfortable, that the athletes feel that we have taken their safety into consideration, that the coaches feel much the same way. You, the media, when you come into the arena, we want you to feel that way as well. So we've looked to enlist a cleaning company that is costing us quite a bit, just to make sure that the sanitizing processes are maintained and are at a particular standard. We want to make sure that our officials who are coming in are comfortable as well. So that side, and I must say Power 8 has also volunteered through Clifford to provide us with some sanitizing stations along the way. We've had two of our sponsors donating sanitizing equipment and materials. So it is substantial. So we have shifted maybe the cost from one side and have had to put that cost into another side. But I can't publicly say to you, sir, what it costs us to put on BSAC. No estimation will come from me. Um, I don't do the accounts either, but I wouldn't fall into that trap at this point in time. Oh yeah, the other thing, we are not sure if we're going to have gate receipts as well. So that also puts another spin on the finance side also. But I will say to you that our sponsors have come on in a big way. Even though their pockets are not as deep as previously, they have come on and continue to commit to ensuring that the meet happens. When we do that other media event, you will hear a little bit more about the role of certain sponsors in the meet also, because we have changed the structure with regards to the sponsorship to allow for more opportunities for sponsors to be heard and seen at the meet. So you will hear a little bit more about that when we bring the other sponsors in for their session. Don't ask me about money no more. Any further questions? At this stage, we have had positive dialogue, and we are just waiting. When I say that we're waiting to dot the I's and cross the T's, we have submitted our protocols. The protocols have been developed between BSAC and NAPSAC, so the same protocols are serving for the two organizations. We employed Dr. Melissa Branford. I know that that's not her married name, but she played a major role in helping us to develop those protocols, and we have been given approval as far as the protocols are concerned. A few recommendations have been made as to how we can improve the protocols, but largely we have been given permission to go ahead with those protocols. What we want to clear up is things with regards to how we will deal with our spectators. There are certain things that are written in the protocols, not our protocols, but the emergency protocols that we want to have clarity on. And that's why I don't want to speak too much with regards to these things, because I don't want to say something today and have to come back tomorrow and say to you that it is a different situation. I want the COVID monitoring unit to make things clear to us so that when we speak, we are speaking from a place of knowledge as opposed to playing a guessing game at this point in time, right? But we are on board, we are on track. Just little things that we need to clear up where they're concerned. Any further questions? I got a whole team here and they only feeling the questions. Something must be wrong. So that is the end of my lesson, students. I will hand over now to the Master of Ceremonies. Thank you for your attention and thank you for the support that you've given to BSAC.
Thank you, Mr. Brathwaite, and thank you to the media who would have asked the questions. We trust that you have gotten all the answers that you want, and that, of course, we will see some good stories coming out. My role now has come to an end, and it's really my pleasure to ask our vote of thanks, our teacher, Mr. Siebert Strawn, who will be doing the vote of thanks for us this morning, to come. And as a Toastmaster, I will tell you, his is the last voice that you will hear. So I want to thank you for coming with us this morning, and I really want to ask God's blessings on all of you as you go to your various destinations. At this time, the voice you will hear will be that of Mr. Siebert Strawn, who you are aware is a teacher of the Christchurch Foundation School. He's a member of the organizing committee. He's a former national athlete. Let's welcome Mr. Strawn as he comes.
All right, good. As I heard this morning to run the anchor leg, this will be our first BSAC since we have become a republic of Barbados. I must say, a very splendid rendition of the national anthem by the young student from Harrison College. Always outstanding in her duties as MCs from the time of the round BSAT. So thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. And Pastor Dash, splendid parade by you this morning also. Good opening of the Indians by our co-chairman, Miss Wade, on her home ground. And I'm happy that we are able to, after 2 years, because I am really looking forward to a very outstanding competition from our young athletes, because you are indeed the future for Barbados. Let me say congrats to all the winners of the virtual walk and walk or run, but the principals was also involved in that activity. And I'm sure that Mr. Keene and Mr. Burnett, myself, I tried a thing on that day, but I wasn't as successful as probably about 30 years ago, but we all made the effort. So we look forward for even bigger and better event next year. Mr. Jackman, who would have been my senior at school, good remarks that you are bringing from the support from your fellow principals and I'm surely the staff for this event that we are hosting this year also, Mr. Jackman. Mr. Clifford Goodedagel, as you said, 4 decades, and I can recall the sponsorship of the companies that you would have been involved in. I can remember Plus, and there would have been several, and you guys have remained very faithful to the sport of track and field and BSAT. So I'm sure that you will probably go 4 more decades, then all of us will be in our rocking chair. Mr. Andrew Braffett, the co-chair, legacy, and I hope that you, the young athletes, are listening. A legacy is very important, because if you look around in this room, there are several former Barbados national athletes, people who have performed at BSAT. These are persons that you need to know, because it's vitally important that you know the history that you are now involved in, because that is something sometimes I think the young people need to be more forceful and work towards knowing about the legacy, what has happened before. Partnerships with our sister ministry, Ministry of Education. I'm glad to see NATSA involved. We're having a very close relationship. I think that's very good. Some other words that Mr. Braffett would have mentioned from incentives, more incentives for the teams, because we in physical education and sports, sometimes we are struggling. Our budget can be very big, but we all need support in our departments at school. Showing appreciation to 3 fallen soldiers, Mr. Bird, Mr. Gaskin, and Mr. Matt. For one, I was surely looking forward to working with young Mr. Matt, because he's in the same zone that I'm in charge of, but the Lord knows better. I think one thing Mr. Braffett have forgotten, we have colors for our zones. Mr. Jeffrey Burke zone will be blue, and the Joneses, that's a strong looking zone, yellow, and I hope that Mr. Vaughn is going to be red. And I know that red has been a very effective color in Barbados over the past several years, so I really hope that that will rub off on that particular zone. Media houses, very important, because their role is very critical, because without the media, in terms of giving us good promotion for all of our events, and I'm sure the likes of Mr. Bino, Miss Burke, who was also a former athlete also, you guys probably miss going to those primary school sports days and those high school and those secondary school sports. I surely miss all of them. Finally, I want to wish all the athletes, the coaches, the principals, all the officials, all the sponsors, the media houses, the supporters, to just give us this chance this year so that we put on a quality meet. And I am sure that if it's successful, the sponsors might say, look, we can have probably another meet outside of BSAT, because I believe that the more competitions, about quality competitions we have for Barbados, it would do even better for our young athletes. So I want to thank you, and I want everybody to remember COVID is still real. Remain safe out there in your environment, and I want to wish everybody a productive and remain a healthy 2022. Thank you very much.
I know, but I can still wait there.